well as all the steps. Does anybody need a copy, or is it not? Okay. So out of the 7 steps, we are currently in between step 4 and 5, which 4 is reclassifying. They've now put class 8, which used to be your specialized, like our short and long-term rental, amusement parks and vehicle lots, which we don't have. But we now have to classify them in class 9. Class 8 will no longer be specialized. So, and then after we come up with all of those, then we will get a list of what we decide what classes, and then that's when we work with Charleston County to repeal and adopt the new standardized city ordinance to go with standardized, going to the standardization class 176.
Okay, sounds like you're well on the way. You were ahead of a lot of other cities and towns that haven't started yet, so. From our last meeting, massive meeting, so that's
it's
good to hear.
Roundtable today, so we're very much in touch and
Great.
closely with Charleston County.
And Mayor, I just want to let all you guys know, we are ahead of the game, and Amberly has done a really tremendous job. We met with Charleston County on Friday, and the step that we're wrapping up, or basically wrapped up now, Amberly had to basically take all of our licenses, all of our different license classes, evaluate them against the new rate schedule, see what changed, figure out how the rates changed to make sure we're revenue neutral. It's a tremendous task with literally thousands of moving parts. And I don't know if any of you guys have worked with Shamika County. She's kind of the wizard for all this, and she just couldn't say enough about what Amberly had done. So Amberly really nailed it on her first try. So thank you, Amberly.
That's why we hired Amberly and stole her from the other folks, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Erling, our favorite speaker.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. So just want to give you guys a little update with where we are with the Bones Island Marsh sign. Talked to Mr. Barber a couple weeks ago, and he is getting, he wants to get an easement. So doesn't really change anything based on the MOU that you guys passed in May. It's basically just solidifying. It's another legal red tape, if you will, that says deeded here on the plat that this is an easement for the sign. So like if council, you get new council members in April or whatever, everyone will be back in April for council.
There you go.
That if you guys change your mind, that it's another security for him as the sign owner, that you guys won't make him move it. So he just wants that extra assurance. So it's taking a little bit longer. He's working with a surveyor. Hopefully we'll have something for you guys at the September meeting to review the easement, see if you guys are cool with where that is surveyed, and then go from there. Doesn't really change anything with the MOU, just gives him a little bit more assurance. Harder than do.
Yeah, but Robert being a former politician and
Could have went many different ways.
and a registered lobbyist, he just wanted to make sure that, going forward, when he changes his sign, he's going to change it to a place that the sign's going to be able to stay.
So, can I ask a few questions?
Yeah.
So does this make it permanent?
Does it make it permanent?
Does it deed the property to him forever?
No, it's just an easement. It's just an allowance for him to put the sign there. So the MOU states that even if it's knocked down, so without the easement, the MOU stated that you guys passed in May, even if it's substantially damaged from a hurricane or is blown down or whatever, it could still go back in that location. The only way that it would be able to be moved is for safety reasons that's cited by council. And so this is just an extra assurance that a later council can't undo the MOU and revoke that it's platted on site.
As part of the MOU, is there any size restriction? Is there any
It would,
requirement that he keep the sign in good order? Is there any opportunity for us to review content or design of the sign?
I believe I would need to review the MOU. I sent it to, Aaron and Wes in a previous email. I can have it pulled up and emailed to you guys after, but again, that was passed in
I just,
May, yeah.
It's the one I prepared, my recollection is it doesn't have those details. It's just my memory.
Right,
Why
You
wouldn't
would
it
still
fit our,
have to-
why wouldn't it fit our normal sign ordinance?
right, so
It,
it's already a non-conforming sign.
yeah, it's
Wait.
offsite.
With where it's located, because we don't allow commercial signs off the property of the business that it's advertising.
Right, but if we're just saying, okay, we're fine with that, as far as the dimensions and, you know, the approval and all that, it should still have the same, why should he get special allowances that nobody else gets? I mean, as far as size and color and all that stuff, the same approval process as the rest of it.
So I don't think DRB applies to it because it's not in the commercial district.
Yeah.
So it would,
Well, I mean, knowing Robert, he could put up a big sign that says, hey, screw you, City of Folly Beach, we can't do anything about it.
Well, he'd have to put up a sign that says, hey, screw you, City of Folly Beach, compliments of Bowen's Island Restaurant. I don't think you wanna do that.
I would, and again, I voted in the minority, the lone minority last time, and I have concerns about giving valuable land away without any compensation for an extended period of time that has no restrictions, it doesn't limit size, it doesn't require maintenance, it has no standards. And it seems to me by doing this easement and by doing the change of the deed and doing the surveying, that we're moving more from permission to ownership. And that's of great concern for me because the land is very valuable and we're not prepared to do this for everybody. And I just think it sets a bad precedent. And I would, I would hope that somewhere along the line we put into the MOU or this that we do have the right to limit size. We do have the
Well,
right.
then we're gonna have to go back and rewrite it and then go through the whole process from day one. So if y'all want, if that's the consensus of everybody here that you wanna go back and start from day one, then we just call Robert Ton and scrap it, and we're gonna go from day one, because you can't change the MOU that was passed, that he's going on, without going through the process.
You want that as a motion at the regular meeting?
I have a really basic question. This is city property.
That's not a question.
Well, okay, there it is a statement, you're right, okay. And I guess I go back to the beginning of the process, and that is my ultimate question is, this is city property, and I'm still trying to understand why, I don't mean it the way it sounds, but I really probably do. Why were you doing this? So,
I can speak to that. In 2018, when we rewrote our sign ordinance and formally codified our prohibition against off-site signs and also signs in the marsh, the Bowen's Island sign was already in the marsh. It became a legal nonconformity. And when we wrote that ordinance, we gave a 6-month, it was actually, I think, even a less than 6-month amortization period, saying all the nonconforming signs in the city have to be done and ready to go by January 1st, 2019. January 1st, 2019 rolled around. It was time to tell Mr. Barber and a few other folks, take your signs out of the marsh at Bowen's Island Road. He came back, Bowen's Island Road, Bowen's Island Restaurant, it's been there forever. It's quote unquote a historical place for the city of Folly Beach. This sign existed before the city annexed this area. So we workshopped that through the planning commission, and they said, well, we do recognize the value of that particular sign, but we don't want it in the marsh. We'd like to come up with some sort of arrangement to allow him to move that sign onto the high ground. COVID happened and everything got dropped. And so once COVID slowed down last year, we came back and said, picking up where we left off in 2019, these are some options for Mr. Barber. He could move his sign to the high ground of Bowens Island Road. That turned out to not be doable. That's not
No,
his property or our property. So the nearest place where there was property that could formally be given over to him for a place to put his sign was our city property. And that's where we proposed to let him relocate the sign from the marsh to our high ground. And that way no encroachment permits were needed. He wasn't confident an encroachment permit to go in the county right of way on Bowens Island Road was permanent enough that anytime the county could come along and had to move it. So he asked to come over to city property to get some quote unquote guarantees. So where we are now is we could enforce the ordinance, ask him to remove the sign completely, or we could work with him to save the historic sign, and this is really our only option to do that.
Well, and a little more history goes way back before any of you guys were here, probably before any of you guys lived here, except for DJ maybe, and Joe. When the city annexed Bowens Island, they annexed up the road, when Vernon Knox worked a deal to annex up the road to get the Piggly Wiggly lot. He guaranteed Bowens Island that nothing would change if they would sign over and come into the city, because they were blocking his annexation process. Well, to put it bluntly, things changed, so the Barbers got screwed basically one time over another process, but worked through it in the city. So, they're looking at this as like, okay, this is the second time the city's gonna screw us after y'all said nothing would change if we signed over our property rights to come into the city so you could get to Harris Teeter. So, there's a lot of history with Owens Island. There's a lot of history with Robert Barber and his family. And I think this is a very minor thing to do. We want him to move his sign. Let's help him get a place to move it. That was the whole process of the MOU to start with.
No, the whole process and agreement I think is great, because we want to get it out the marsh. I mean, just like Tim said, it's a great switch off. But just having a little purview over exactly the size and what's there, I mean, it shouldn't be anything more than what's there now. I mean,
That's
but
what
I mean, at least being able to say, okay, yes, this fits. I mean, we need some sort of approval over the final copy of it or something size. Can't just let the guy put a big billboard up, that's twice as big as the one he's got now, without some sort of
This
purview.
just has such a permanence to it. We can be good neighbors and we can let them do it and have the MOU and exercise some control about standards and size and placement. But you know what, 9 years from now, when the James Island deal is all paid off and we're out of that, we might have to put a fire department out there. If we put a fire department out there and this guy has perpetual right to keep that sign there, then our fire department, we have to work around the sign that we've given him perpetual, unless we can show where it's a safety thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, that if we have to put a utility right away through there to get to our new fire department, this just has so much permanence to it that it's given something away that's very valuable to the city, and
Well, it does stop the MOU that was voted on in May. Call Robert Barber and tell him to stop everything he's doing.
we can vote on it. I'm
No, I don't think
No,
these
you
guys
can't
support
vote
for
on it.
taking over and doing it like that, because I don't want to go that far with them. I think what we're doing is fine. I just want us to be able to say, hey, look, man, let's at least have an agreement on what your sign looks like.
Well, I can call him and set up an appointment, and we can talk to him, and see if he's agreeable with that, but if he's not, then it's gonna be,
Is that
Start over
something,
from square
Aaron, would
one.
he have to get a sign permit to move his sign with the MOU agreement that the location is agreed upon, but it would still have to be,
The MOU allows him to put his sign there.
The
so we-
existing sign.
Yeah, so we need to tighten
so if
up
we're
that.
okay with the existing sign, right? It's
Yeah.
not,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but
We have
if-
to tighten up the easement
Okay.
language in the case of the sign as is now goes away. Next year hurricane blows down,
so
does he have?
that's
the
kind of my
easement?
question, so like, let's say it gets,
so we'll give you this easement for the sign as is today, perpetually, so if it blows down, you gotta rebuild it just like it is today.
or in accordance with the current zoning standards, so you might get a smaller sign.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Per zoning ordinance is what I'm saying,
And
Well,
whatever the details are, they don't exist in the current MOU.
agreement, right?
Well, then there isn't a zoning standard for his sign out there other than no sign.
Well, we could make it mirror for other commercial district signs and say maximum 20 square feet, 30-foot height, that sort of thing. So we'll have to come back to you guys with proposed language. Thank you, Mr. Barber, or we can just do that straight to you. But
Do you
right
s-
now, as written, it does not address replacement signs in the future or the need to move it for anything other than safety.
Okay, so admittedly, you know, I at least am walking into the process midstream, let's just say mid to be fair. So, you know, I'll just need more clarity, more specifics.
Wait a minute, hold it. You were here in May, weren't you?
No,
You weren't?
no, July or something, we were still
Well, okay.
campaigning.
That's right, y'all were.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
y'all were because of,
yeah,
forget about the
yeah,
COVID.
no, trust me, I'm like, okay, I'm
Okay,
trying. So, my sense of this, for me directly, is, I'm fine coming in wherever the process is, but I'm going to need more specific.
That's why he's getting the easement, to
Okay.
show you guys exactly where it would be, where the sign would be placed. And, you know, maybe we see that and staff can look at it and say, we have plenty of other avenues to tie into whatever utilities we need, or you guys can say, we need to have X, Y, and Z stipulations on this. Do you guys still want to see the easement, so he can go through the survey work, or do
I'm
you guys
perfectly
wanna
fine
have-
with everything as it stands, and even if the mayor has just a look at what the sign says, say, okay, yeah, that's fine, I'm fine with that. But somebody from the city needs to be able to have fun and say, yes, okay, that is fine, you can move forward, just to cover our bases.
I think that would be in the form of a sign permit, that would just be,
I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be anything official to make me happy, it doesn't need to be anything official, I just want that man, or the man next to him, somebody from the city say, yeah, man, no problem, that works just fine with us. Not DRB or anything, I don't care, as long as somebody just at least says, yeah, that's fine. And those guys know what we're talking about, but just to say, you don't give anybody else carte blanche to just go forward and do whatever they want, so we just need to, you know,
But you still gotta come back next time. If y'all wanna see the easement, you still gotta come back with the easement. I mean, that's not,
yeah, so
On the
he's
books.
getting that
Right.
information
Yeah.
now.
So with the MOU, it wasn't decided exactly where the sign was gonna go?
It was general description of
Okay.
north,
But do you think the survey will probably put it in the same?
it'll be in the same
It'll
general
be the
spot,
same
it'll
spot.
just be platted on there to say this
Right.
is
Okay.
a dedicated easement.
Right.
Makes it harder to undo.
If we were to deed this property for the signed easement, and Bowen's Island was to close or change hands or change names, then would the easement go to the new owner of the Bowen's property, or would Mr. Barber still own it, and then he could lease it out to somebody as a moneymaker for him because he is the deed holder for the easement?
Kind of defer to
I don't know, Joe, you can make the easement for as long as the Barber family owns the restaurant.
But that would require changing the MOU, I'm sure, because that's not addressed in the MOU.
So the MOU doesn't address an easement at all, so I
Yeah, it
think it
doesn't.
would be a separate.
I don't know, I mean, generally an easement, the idea behind an easement is that it's permanent.
And the way to get around it would write the easement for a specific thing. So you grant an easement for a specific purpose.
That we could definitely do.
You can do
You can
that.
put the size of
That
the
would
sign
keep-
in
that would
there,
keep the next owner.
That's all I'm saying. I'd be completely satisfied
you
if,
can do that.
if the permanence of it, meaning that if Crosby, if Bowens goes away, it goes away. If the size can be regulated somehow, if the content can be regulated somehow, if it falls in disrepair, that we can compel them to fix the sign so we don't have a dilapidated sign at the gateway to the city. I just think those things should be spelled out and not just a carte blanche. This is the city property and we're giving it to you and do with it as you will, which is pretty much what we've done.
Well, a couple of things. Things like the size of the sign and its location and all of that is fine. But I'm not positive you can make an easement that expires on a trigger date. Even if you could, you gotta think about how you're gonna
Undeed it.
word that. Well, that's why I don't know. But you also how you word it, because I'm sure there's an LLC that owns that restaurant. I mean, are you gonna say the bar? That's gonna get tricky.
I think it is.
And we're not giving them, I mean, it's just an easement now. I mean, it's an easement to put a sign. We still own the property.
The MOU was permission.
Well, that's right.
This,
An
this
easement.
moves the needle towards ownership. It might not be ownership.
They own an
but-
easement, not the property.
Well,
That's a different,
The MOU definitely, it says moving the sign, so the intent is for that sign that's there now that we're fine with to move there. So as long as that is followed, then we're fine, I'm 100% peace and
Is that
chaos.
true, Joe?
I'm reading it.
The easement is for the
Well,
historic
easement's
sign.
not, the MOU is.
The MOU,
the MOU.
We don't know about the easements.
I didn't remember, but that sounds right.
So then,
You- how you
said-
found
so,
that.
so then we
I went to
move,
the May agenda.
then what you're saying is,
You
I went to the May agenda.
then what you're saying is we give an easement for the sign, and the sign blows away in a hurricane, the easement is over.
No, no,
We don't know that, we don't have.
Well,
that's not how an easement works.
We
So
give
that-
an easement for the sign.
No.
No, no, no.
The MOU states
The MOU
that,
All right, wait a minute, one at a time, okay?
the MOU states that the city further agrees that it will not require the owner to move the sign from that site in the future due to substantial damage, substantial improvement, or changes in the city ordinance. The city only reserves the right to move the sign for safety reasons, and in such case, the city will move the sign at its own expense to a similarly advantageous location. That is the MOU that was agreed upon and passed in May 2021. But it doesn't say anything about.
So Mayor, to your question, we were here.
No,
It was May of 2021, not May of 2020.
That's what I thought.
Oh,
there wasn't.
To be clear, I mean, both the MOU and if we did an easement,
Go right.
and something happened to the sign, I mean, they could rebuild it.
But would they have to rebuild it to what it looks like currently, or
We
would it
could
have
make
to?
it that.
We can
Or
make it
would
to
it
be
have
the
to
light
conform
sign.
to
Yeah.
zoning?
I mean,
I mean,
everything
we
that
could,
it says
I would
the sign.
strongly
The
suggest, if that's a concern, you just go measure the dimensions of the sign and put that in there. Whether it's an MOU or an easement.
Yeah, I would just say, if the sign's reconstructed, it has to be exactly like the sign that was destroyed. They need to we need to take a picture of it, they need to take a picture of it so we'll know what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it has historical significance, is what we're also saying.
It's been there a long time.
Okay.
The Bowen's Island sign's been there a long time, the kayaks have not been there a long time.
On the kayaks, that's right.
They got to go too, but
Yeah.
we're not, because they had not been there a long time. No MOU's been worked out or anything like that.
So how about for maintenance? We'd have no way to compel maintaining the sign in what we would consider
You can put something, but it's gotta be kept up,
in the MOU or in the easement.
either one.
Well, I think there should be some consideration to adding those.
I mean, other city ordinances still apply to this sign, right? Not just the location, but,
We could make
There
that
are
all
other-
clear.
right.
So if we make it, Robert, I hope you're listening. So if we make him move the sign exactly like it is right now, maintenance on it's gonna be pretty easy. It's not, really highly maintained at this moment, so.
Might need some more bracing.
Yeah, we need some, well, I'm sure Mr. Wilson can make sure that goes in the easement somehow.
Okay, so hopefully in September, I'll have an easement for you guys to review. And we'll draft some specifics before that with the mayor's blessings before coming to you guys. Okay, thank you.
All right. So next up is the RFP
Oh,
for the
boy.
communications, and I'm gonna pull up my email. So earlier today, we sent out kind of a summary of the pros and cons. Staff reviewed these and came up with a summary of the pros and cons, and I don't wanna, since we have limited time right now, I just wanna give you some, how that was developed. I read through it, you good? I read through it as a non-technological person, and I said, if I had to make a vote on these companies, which one of them adequately explains what they propose to do, how they're gonna do it, how long it's gonna take, and how much it's gonna cost. I felt like some of them were filled with a lot of good language that didn't necessarily convey any meaning in terms of what are you gonna do for me, how much is it gonna cost, how will you do it, and how much, I didn't get a feeling of the what, the way it was just, we're gonna make you a great website, have fun. So I tried to summarize that here in this list for you guys, and I think from a staff perspective, this captures all of our comments. Not a recommendation, but for me, reading it from that point of view, I thought that the Department of Civic Things and Marketing Alliance seemed to most clearly lay out what they proposed to do. I thought all of the RFPs promised us a good product. Planetaria, unfortunately, was just about the website. It didn't really talk to the communication strategy, but I thought their website proposal was really good. But for me, the Marketing Alliance and Department of Civic Things were the ones that most adequately took a blind reader who knew nothing about what's going on and made me feel comfortable how this process would work and what the end result would be. I know you guys have read them and have some comments too, so I've got 6 minutes for you to bat around your ideas. And then just generally, if we feel like we're not at a point where we can award this tonight, we can certainly postpone it, ask for more information from the bidders, schedule kind of a more formal review with finalists, and however you guys want to propose. You do not have to award it tonight if you don't feel you are ready, but if you do feel you're ready, that's your prerogative, and you can certainly do that also.
Well, I can start. I don't feel like I'm ready to say we choose one. I do have a few favorites that, maybe it'd be great to hear a little more from, or, get, because a lot of these were very wordy, I agree, and it was hard to, you could get lost in it, and it's hard to pick out exactly what you were looking for. I thought it was a tie between Department of Civil Things as well as the Jesse James Creative. Those were my two, and then the one that I thought was next was the current agency. Marketing Alliance, I liked them, but then I felt like they were more leaning towards tourism, real estate development, when I was looking through, some of their case studies, and economic development and all that. Definitely municipal, they did have some municipal things in there, but I felt like it wasn't as municipal driven as some of the others. But that was probably the only negative thing I felt about Marketing Alliance, so I'd rather not have to choose tonight.
I looked at it as did we need, and several things came up. One was user-friendly for residents, owners, businesses, visitors, and the staff itself. Someone that really specialized in government services and websites. I was looking for somebody to really wow me in a presentation, because that's what they do from a website standpoint, is you really have to be pulled in to what they do. Something that's simple to use, something that's humorous or creative that fits Folly Beach. I mean, we are, I think, one of the greatest communities. Definitely a good CMS, something that's easy to manage, something simple, something that involves community involvement. Security, I think is key. I think there's one that I liked that had a white hat hacker on staff. Something that's CEO friendly and social media. I know Wes has got a good bit of marketing and social media background. I think he'd be a good one to ask and bring in as far as specific questions on what we do and need. I know Colleen, she does a good bit with the Parks and Rec and events and booking and calendars, and something that we could use to event registration, signage, payments, forms, permits for Eric and things like that. Google Map and API that would be built into it, so that somebody who needs to use the restroom can just pop it in. Somebody with a dashboard. It's awesome if you have a mobile unit, somebody that is really mobile device centered. Somebody can do polls and surveys instead of using SurveyMonkey. And somebody that's fun to work with. And with that, there was one clear winner, was Jesse James. So that's my opinion.
Does the staff have a recommendation?
My top choices were the Marketing Alliance and Department of Civic Things.
So everybody's all over the board on this, huh?
I think, I agree with, Councilmember Ray that we, don't make an award this evening. However, I'm perfectly comfortable going through a process whereby we each select two. And if there's enough, sort of momentum behind any two, they'd be our finalists, and we proceed with interviewing them, perhaps not as a committee, but those members of council and staff as appropriate that are available in the next couple of weeks to virtually meet with those finalists, and then at a future city council meeting, we can take a vote. One thing I did want to point out about the Department of Civic Things, if my memory serves, I didn't print out their materials. I believe they're a one-man band. That it's a company of one fellow in California.
Woman, Rebecca
A woman who,
Woodbury, she started March 1st, 2021.
yeah, who parses out all the work, and she did indicate that she'd be willing to
Yeah.
work with a local firm. And I think that's not so much a nicety as it is a necessity for her, because she doesn't have all the resources that some of the other
I
firms
encourage
have.
everybody to look at what I call a background check on everybody, but just Google them up, the people that are making the presentations, who are the lead people, because those are gonna be your contact when you service it. And if you look at them, there are some very intelligent people that do this stuff. But there are some interesting stories, and I'd be more than happy to share with you either now or in a future time when we do have more time, of what their backgrounds are and how they came to what they are and what they do. So I think that's important as well as we know the person we're dealing with. So,
I agree.
and I'm okay waiting too, by the way, so
Yeah.
we'll have to make a decision tonight.
I agree with what's been said. I don't think there's any reason to rush into this tonight or make a final decision tonight. I could add that the Department of Civil Things, as one of their references was the town of Belmont in Gaston County, and I've had some personal experience with that website, and it is very user-friendly and works very well. So I think asking a few more questions and diving down a little bit deeper in a smaller list is a prudent thing to do.
I've done some research, I've looked at it, I'm also perfectly fine with the staff doing a lot of research, go back, do certain things. Certainly that means I'll need some more time as far as sort of all of us doing it. But if the staff wants to make a recommendation and we go that route, and with the mayor, I'm fine with that as well. I'm agreeable to whatever the process is.
DJ? Or Councilman Richardson?
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with postponing. We can also shoot the whole project down. I wouldn't be disappointed either. So, I'm fine. I haven't liked this project from day one, so just leave me out of it.
Well, and gosh, I hate to somewhat agree with DJ.
I mean,
But in
sorry.
the sense of, I'm more about process and the details that the staff really needs to do a better job, to communicate, so on and so forth. I don't wanna be so hands-on as a council person that, I'm not helpful, because it's not my area of expertise. But, so, I'm flexible, but I do feel that more information is needed or recommendations.
Well, and I think it's beneficial for staff to possibly, say we choose to interact with them a little bit and make sure everybody, likes each other, and because you all are gonna be working, pretty closely with them. And if, somebody really, you're like, wow, can't do it, that's important to know, because we wanna, get as much out of this as possible.
You do it like a board appointment where you have multiple choices.
Yeah, so just procedurally then, if we'd like to postpone, when this comes up on the floor, we need someone to make a motion to postpone, and then we need someone to make a motion to call for finalists, and we'll call it like a board appointment.
All right, I'll dive into the deep end meeting.
Well, when it
Oh,
comes
I'm
up-
like, I'll dive in, I'll do it right now.
Yeah,
And I'll remember I did it.
postpone call for finalists being two selections from each?
I'd say 3, if you really had to. I mean, 3's gonna be the key.
So just make sure there's zero momentum for just shooting it all down, right? I want to be the only one, okay.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
need a website. This is
We,
supported.
I don't think we have any problem
residents.
attracting people, I don't think we have any problem with people coming to the beach. I mean, we're doing a great job of it, I can know where $50,000 could be better spent.
All right, any other discussion for that later tonight?
Need a motion to go into executive session?
Well, so we're gonna go at 6:45, so we can actually adjourn the work session if you guys wanna. Yeah, so the mayor will rejoin us and we'll convene very briefly here at 6:44-ish, just to go to executive session. So we've got about 12 minutes.
Okay, all these days.
We're not, give us a second to turn off the microphones and the work session is over.
I just figured.
Better website.
The salty thing, I stole it.
But I remember.
Yes. I didn't stick it. Yes.